So it's come to my attention, and I also had to talk about the situation that occurred just last week during the UFC pay-per-view in Madison Square Garden. There's a situation where the current heavyweight champion of the world didn't have a confrontation with his former team, but he just flat out disrespected them. Obviously, Fernando Lopez and the MMA Factory, which is a stable gym in Paris, France, which is continuing to grow and continuing to bring in these great mixed martial artists to the UFC. They were there this past weekend to support Nasruddin Imavov. The current interim heavyweight champion of the world, Cyril Gane, was there. The head coach of MMA Factory in Paris, France, Fernando Lopez, was there to coach him. And obviously, that team got a victory on that day. But as they were in the back, their former partner and former main training partner and former stablemate, Francis Ngannou, walked by and didn't even look at them, didn't even say a word, just acted as if they didn't even exist. And for me, that's a messed up situation right there, because Fernando Lopez made Francis from nothing to something. Now, we all know that Francis has the feel-good story of when he decided to leave Cameroon. He was homeless in Paris, France. He was living on the streets. He was donating his time to a homeless shelter, I believe. And eventually, Fernando Lopez was able to find him, brought him into the MMA Factory, taught him how to fight in mixed martial arts, and brought him to the big show. He got him into the UFC. And for Francis to bite the hand that basically fed him. Now, we all know that Francis doesn't train out of Paris anymore. He currently trains out of Las Vegas, Nevada at Extreme Couture under Eric Nixick, who happens to be a rising coach right now, one of the best coaches in the whole world. Trains a lot of great other fighters at that gym in Las Vegas, Nevada. And as a result, Francis's game has evolved. His takedown defense is great. He's basically more patient as ever, because from the very beginning, Francis used to be a very wild fighter. He used to go in there and try to take out guys as fast as he possibly could, trying to end the fight in the first round or in the very early stages of the second round. And it was working in the very beginning. It worked so well that he ended up getting a title shot against the current champion at that time, which was Stipe Miocic. And as a result, he ended up losing that fight because he couldn't defend the takedown from Stipe. He used to be a former Division I wrestler. As a result, Francis ended up losing his next fight against Derek Lewis. So he was on 2-fight skid, but he was able to move to Las Vegas, and he was able to change things up. His takedown defense was on point, and he was able to become more of a patient fighter, more of a strategic fighter, and he was able to pinpoint his shots and learn when to go and when not to go, which is how he ended up getting his second title shot against Stipe Miocic and winning via knockout in the second round, even though he could have won in the first round. Obviously, when both these fighters meet, which is going to happen in January, in the very early stages, in the first quarter of 2022, it's going to be a very interesting matchup, because this is going to be Francis Ngannou's toughest opponent to date besides Stipe Miocic, because both these fighters are pretty much alike in different ways, but one's a complete mixed martial artist and another one is working towards becoming a complete mixed martial artist. Cyril Gane has basically had the same ride as Francis Ngannou. Came into the UFC not very well known by the masses of the MMA community, and he was able to rise up the ranks pretty fast, with submission victories, with knockout victories, with TKO victories. This man is a complete mixed martial artist. And when you see him fight, he's very cool, calm, and collected. You never really see him in very bad situations. And if he ever is in a bad situation, he tends to fix mistakes pretty fast, pretty darn fast. And that's what champions are all about. They learn how to be in bad situations and how to get out of them the right way instead of the wrong way. And Francis has now learned that, and Cyril Gane has always had that during the course of his mixed martial arts career. He's always stayed in Paris. He's always stayed with the MMA Factory. He's never left Fernando Lopez's side. And he dedicated his title win to Fernando Lopez after he won the title against Derek Lewis, because Francis Ngannou did have some problems with the UFC. I believe they wanted him to fight, but Francis didn't want to, or it was vice versa. They couldn't come out with an agreement, which forced the UFC to create an interim UFC heavyweight title and pitted Cyril Gane versus Derek Lewis. And in that fight, Cyril Gane absolutely outclassed Derek Lewis. And as we all know, the first time and the last time that Francis Ngannou faced Derek Lewis, he was completely gun shy. Both those fighters did not want to hit each other at all. Both of them were pretty scared because of the power that both of them possess. Both those guys could knock you out with one punch. And it was Derek Lewis at the end of the day that was able to edge out a victory against Francis Ngannou because he had a little bit more activity. He was able to move a little bit more, land maybe 2 or 3 more punches than Francis Ngannou. And that's a problem because if Francis, if he has that type of fear, and I believe that fear is gone, but if a single 1% or 2% of that fear is still there going into that fight against Cyril Gane, who also hits very hard, but he doesn't go in there to try to take out his opponents as fast as possible. He goes in there to pick them apart little by little by little until that crack turns into a hole and he can completely exploit it. And will that happen with Francis? And if Francis has that fear, I only believe it's going to increase because there's a lot of pressure going into this for Francis. He's facing his former teammate, his former main training partner, and his former team in the MMA factory for the first time since he's left. And he hasn't gone back to the camp. He hasn't gone back to the gym at all. He has his allegiance in Las Vegas. He plans on staying in Las Vegas. He has a house in Las Vegas. He has everything he needs in Las Vegas and doesn't plan on going back to Paris, the city where he had nothing, he gained everything, and moved out of there. Now, this is a storyline that's going to continue to build on, but knowing these two fighters, they're not going to go in there with a lot of animosity. They're not going to go in there looking to knock each other out because they hate each other. Both these guys are cool, calm, and collected. You never really see them in the headlines for the wrong reasons, especially in the MMA community, with the tabloids, with the MMA media. So definitely look for a quiet surge to this matchup. And during the fight week, there's not going to be that much heat behind it. Both these guys are very respectful towards every single opponent that they faced in the past, and both these guys just want to fight in order to stay active and fight in order to prove that they are the best in the world, and also fight to promote MMA in their respective home countries. Obviously, France is still building as an MMA power, and Cameroon doesn't really have that many people fighting out there at all. I believe there's either 2 or 3 Cameroonian-born fighters in the UFC as we speak, and Francis wants to build gyms over there. Dana's already talking about building UFC PI all the way in Africa, so there's definitely a lot of hope for Cameroon and also for Paris as well. And when these two individuals fight, there's only going to be more attention put on the both of those countries. So there's definitely a lot of good things that's going to happen at this fight. I'm not going to come up with any preview prediction just yet. I just wanted to talk about this video and just kind of the disrespect that came out of Francis, but I don't know, more things are going to come out later on in the next coming months, obviously next month and then into January before this fight happens. But it's a very interesting matchup. I can't wait to see it happens, and I will make a preview and a prediction video. It just won't be right now, but I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Stay safe, stay blessed, and continue to enjoy the fight, so keep on coming. Later, guys.